Hi, I'm Maureen Kiley, the CEO of Real Cheeky, and I'm also the co-founder of Breakaway Top Ventures, which is a growth operators business with my daughter. And I'm excited this is the first initial Grit Media podcast. So we are launching so many great interviews, so much great information. And I want to talk a little bit about what grit is and how it came about and how it can help you in your life, in your business, and what it means. So, grit stands for growth, real, but because I have so much experience in the real estate space, we are going to incorporate some real estate in here. But the real part is about being authentic in your business, being authentic in your life, and just being a really great person. So that's kind of where the R came in grit. And then I is about innovation. So innovation is really critical because with Real Cheeky, we were starting to build a AI digital assistant in real estate. And I believe innovation with artificial intelligence is like electricity, and people don't realize the power of it. And I am really super excited to talk about different tools in artificial intelligence in our podcast and our YouTube channel. So, the T is for tenacity. So, I started my journey with artificial intelligence about 7 years ago. And it was first with machine learning. And at first, people didn't understand what we were doing about reading forms and real estate. And real estate is really antiquated. When you compare it to banking, you compare it to lending, you compare it to even medical reading of forms with a machine learning has been around a long time, but real estate has been really stifled by a lot of things because I will be talking about that because I released my book. First, I want to talk about what our first podcasts are going to be about, and why would you want to be involved in this? First and foremost, I want to keep an open dialogue with listeners to our podcast and our YouTube channel. So what I want you to do is if you have an idea, please share it with us. If you want to bring on someone onto our podcast that you think will fit in one of those categories, growth, and it could be mindset, it could be anything in your business that or your life that you want to grow with, and anything with real estate or being authentic, and also obviously innovation, and also just plain grit, having tenacity to get something done, perseverance. So any ideas that you have that you want to share with anyone that's watching this, I highly recommend that you send us an email to info@breakawaygo.com, or in the comments in YouTube, you can just comment and give us ideas. So I recently read a really fantastic book. I've done the Tony Robbins thing. I have walked across the hot coals. I've been following Tony Robbins since the beginning of my sales career, and in my 20s. And I have to say, it's great to go to those events. It's great to read all his books and all the other great people, Proctor and Les Brown, and, Think and Grow Rich, all these great things about mindset. But I believe that David Bear has something that I really, really love. And I recently started on this journey reading this book called the Master Key System. So when I was finishing my book, I went and took 2 weeks and I immersed myself in projects. One to finish my book, one to finish this book, which is actually a workbook. And I have to say that this is an incredible scientific mindset strategy. But it is, I'm going to be honest, it's not that easy to understand for most people. But the cool part is you have Chat GPT. So when I didn't understand something, I just took a picture of it. I want to point out that this is one of the greatest books. And then after I finished this book on my journey, I read A Changed Mind by David Bear. And I went from complicated to really simple. And I love his whole decision matrix. And I'm not sure anyone, Tony Robbins, none of these guys had broken down how to change a limiting belief or resistance inside you to grow, whether it's in your health, whether it's in your career, whether it's with a relationship. I think he's done something really, really great. And so I went and bought my 1 year journal here for a changed mind. And I highly recommend that if you want to start 2025 in a really great way, start now and start using his decision matrix. And if you want to change something in your business or change something in your life, I highly recommend the book. It's an easy read. I did it on Audible. Um, and then I listened to certain sections over and over, and then I applied it. And now I have an accountability partner, one of my investors in our company, and a good friend of mine who is an eternal optimist, Daniel Cardenas. He is doing this as my accountability partner with me. So I highly recommend doing that. I also want to point out that there's some things that we are going to be covering in business and on this podcast. And I love this guy, Alex Hormozy, 100 million leads. So if you're in sales or you're an entrepreneur and you want to break down some things with us, we're going to have a series of 101 leads. And I'm going to just put this up here. Alex, he's great. I think he has some of the best podcasts with Chris Williams on YouTube, and I highly recommend if you want to just grow, listen to that podcast. There's one that's like 3 hours long. I did it on 3 treadmills, times on the treadmill. And then I haven't read this yet, but I have all his stuff. And he's the guy that sold $1 billion, Russell Brunson. And we're doing all of this we're implementing all these great people's tools into our breakaway growth program. So our business owners or real estate agents that are struggling with their businesses or struggling just managing it all, they can come and join our Do It For You program. We take a limited number of people into this program, but we're implementing what the best of the best does in their business. So all of these things are really great. And these are just business growth things and innovation things because we use a lot of artificial intelligence as well. So that kind of ties into all of our grit media. Now, I have a good friend, Mitch. There he is, Mitch Riback. He wrote a book called The Big Lie. And he is one of, I've already recorded this, so I'm launching it right after this initial Grit Media announcement. And if you're in real estate, or actually if you're in any business, he and I are so much in alignment on the power of your CRM and the whole theory of your 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. And I just want everyone to know that this is a great, easy read if you're in real estate. And he's a great leader. He's owned 23 different businesses, I believe. He's from Boston. He's a big Red Sox fan. If anybody's a Red Sox fan, should just get this book. Anyway, he's a really good person and he's a great leader. And I highly recommend that you read this book. It's very easy, but the back part of this book has a lot of really great nuggets for business owners. And you'll be able to see me interview him on our podcast. Now, I am about to interview a lady, which I live in Tampa Bay, Florida. And so I just I've been here 3 years. We used to live in California, and during the mass exodus, I'm originally from the East Coast. I said to my husband, I want to get back to water that we can swim in. And I really loved Florida. And I used to visit Florida from California and the Caribbean. I just love this whole area. And I pinch myself every day because it's so sunny and people are so friendly and I just love it. And so, but since I've been here, I've been through five major storms, three major hurricanes. So I met this wonderful lady, Connie Myers. I met her at a women's conference in Scottsdale, and I'm going to be interviewing her come January because I want everyone to prepare, whether it be a flood, a hurricane, a tornado, an earthquake. This book is incredible. Be ready, be prepared, be ready. And she's already agreed to interview with me, so I'm going to try to get her on my schedule pretty quick, but I haven't been able to do that. Now, I want to talk about my book. My book, which this is the author's copy, Exposed, the billion-dollar machine that runs real estate. It's a deep dive into, and it's only, 147 pages, so it can't be that big of a deep dive. I had to take like a lot of time to, I had to take out, I couldn't go that deep in a 150 pages, but I do provide amazing nuggets in here to follow the money and follow, most people in the real estate industry have not really delved into this billion-dollar machine that is running real estate, which is basically the National Association of Realtors and some major technical players like Lone Wolf and DocuSign and some of these companies that have been running real estate. And real estate agents are interesting. I've been in this space 17 plus years. My ex-husband is an amazing real estate agent with EXP. He was with Keller Williams for a long time. And, it's a hard job. Um, but I also know that there could be tools that could help real estate agents do better. And I know for a fact, because I'm in AI technology, that we need more tools in real estate for the consumer, and that the consumer has been blind. And the recent lawsuits that have happened, that are still going on, and the antitrust that just settled for one case, in last week, right before Thanksgiving, that particular lawsuit really opened up a can of worms, in my opinion. And you're going to have different opinions on this book, and I hope you get it, the book. I hope if you're a consumer that you buy or sell real estate, or you have a kid that's about to buy or sell real estate, that you get them this book. Because what I've done in this book is I have outlined basically the history of real estate, talking about antitrust, talking about Homestead Act, talking about how the National Association of Realtors became so powerful. And yes, there's a lot of great things that they have done, but also they have impeded, stopped technology, in my opinion, from growing because of some of the practices that they have implemented in their policies and because of the forms. And the forms are not consumer in most states that I have read, because I have an AI app and I've read a lot of these contracts. And if you're a buyer or seller of real estate, honestly, I would hire an attorney to do all of my contract paperwork. I wouldn't even have my real estate agent do it. And I'd have the real estate agent negotiate the deal, but I wouldn't have them, I'll never use them for contracts again. And I have examples in this book where buyers and sellers have actually been screwed by the forms. And I know some people are going to be offended by this book. And that's okay, because we're in a free world and we should be able to convey our opinion. But I do, in the back of this book, show a bibliography of everywhere where I sourced it. And here's the real key about Exposed. This is all public knowledge. I'm the only one that I know of. I looked around for books on this that actually put a book together that showed the process of real estate. And what really, I've been watching this lawsuit for 3 years, and I knew that certain things were going to happen. I didn't think that they were going to fall out the way they did necessarily, but I do have in here how this impacts buyers and sellers and how it impacts the agent. And so, for example, the buyer's journey, chapter 4, is great. Okay. It just gives, you can do it on your own. You can use a real estate agent. I think the real estate industry needs to raise the bar in regards to who gets to become a real estate agent and who doesn't. Because there's a lot of people out there that do 2 deals a year because, oh, my dad or my sister or somebody, my aunt wants to buy a home. And so, in my opinion, you really need to think about who you use. This is the largest investment most people make in their lives. And there can be disasters as a result of a poor decision on a real estate buy or sell. And so, what I would say is take a look at this book and and I'd love feedback. So, you can email me at info@breakaway.go.com and you can give me feedback on this book. And on chapter 5, I have a seller's journey. So it's a different role now for sellers. And for those of you that don't know, this is a big deal. Whereas the practices before, we never really talked about some of these things in the real estate conversation. It was always implied that the seller would pay the commission for the buyer agent. And, people are talking in the industry right now, show your value. I mean, I'm not saying a real estate agent doesn't have value. I think there's some amazing real estate agents out there. And I think there's a lot of crappy ones. And I'm just being honest because I can tell you from the other side of seeing contracts come through our platform and the way they're written, um, that's what this is all about. When you buy a home, it's not about whether the house looks great. I mean, yes, that's part of the process. The biggest part of this is the contract negotiations. So if you're going to buy a home or sell your home, don't you want the best of the best? Don't you want to have someone in the legal area making sure that you are getting exactly what you want out of the deal? And don't you want your agent to negotiate that effectively? So I guess I'm putting this on notice is that everybody needs to step up. Buyers and sellers need to read documents. They need to not just accept things at value. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of the examples in this book is about the seller not disclosing something and the buyer got stuck with a really poor contract and had really no leg to stand on because the buyer was a first-time buyer. And the first-time buyer doesn't have a lot of money necessarily to go mediate and arbitrate. Arbitration, I would never sign a contract again with arbitration in it. Arbitration's more expensive than going to court. What if you have to go and it's a $5,000 deal that you're trying to get out of the seller or the buyer or whatever in the contract? If you have to go through arbitration, it's going to cost you a lot more money to have the lawyers, and maybe you have to have an expert inspection person. I investigated all of this on the arbitration side, and I would definitely not sign any contract that requires you to go through arbitration. You have to cross that out in the contract. Okay, now here's the real nuggets, the public information, which a lot of people aren't aware of, and you really want to read the book just for this, in my opinion, on chapter 8. And I show all the links to the taxes for the associations, the major players. Now, I was involved in having an integration in our platform with the California Association of Realtors. And they didn't disclose some things to me that affected my application a year later. And with that in mind, I started doing some investigation on my own as to who all these major players are in tech and in the association. So when you go look at the taxes, and the links are going to be put on my book, Expose the Billion Dollar Machine.com. The links will be also put up there shortly. You guys have to know that they're a nonprofit, but they make a lot of money. $1 billion worth of assets, and they have controlling interest in companies that are not nonprofit. And they are major, and we can't see those taxes. So we really don't know what the backroom deals are. We do not know anything in regards to how much they own. So look, for example, real estate business services. Real estate business services owns the copyrights, I believe, for the forms. Now, don't quote me on that, but they have the forms. The California Association of Realtors has copyrights of the forms. They sold the forms to Lone Wolf. They sold zip forms and the metadata behind it all. And so, what does that mean to you as an agent, as to a consumer? It means a lot, because they have the control there, and they made a lot of money off of zip forms. And now the agents, what are they going to use? They're forced to use zip forms if they want those forms. Or now they've sold another set to SkySlope or Dotloop, okay? But the agents are forced through their brokerages to utilize the association forms and the platforms in which host those forms because of copyright law. Now, if you take away the forms and buyers and sellers just hire an attorney, which is probably more important than anything, to have an attorney. And I'm not an attorney, but I have to say, after I've researched all this stuff, I would have an attorney involved. And I know a lot of real estate agents and brokers aren't going to like that. But the association has put them in this situation. And now they got to figure out, okay, the brokerages probably should just come up with their own forms through their own attorneys. And this way, then they're going to be held liable for it. So there's a lot of can of worms being opened up as a result of some of this lawsuit that happened in Missouri. And I think you could find out more. And I have a section in here called Follow the Money. So if you look at this, it's hard to see, I think, but it is a good read. And it does open your mind. And if you're a real estate agent, you have to question the organization that most of you don't even participate in, okay? Only because you're forced to by the brokerages that you're with. You have to understand that they have their fingers in everything. So my suggestion is get a good read. You can also go to the back, and I have a buyer's guide in here. And I also have all the links of where I found all this information. So this wasn't something that I dreamt up or made some conspiracy theory. This is all factual public information that nobody put together. And I do provide some opinion in here only because I've been in the space a long time. I've dealt with some amazing real estate agents, and I've dealt with a lot of poor ones. And in my opinion, and the people that are part of my growth program with our company, they're amazing agents. And those people are going to excel to the top in helping their buyers and sellers in the future. And it is my hope that we can finally get real estate to an AI conversational level, get more blockchain in there for security, and stop this madness of making real estate complicated. When I first started my company, we rebranded. We were called Stress Free TC, and it was a transaction coordination platform. And when AI became available, we decided to launch Agent Sidekick. And AI, we could do this conversationally. And real estate agents are not sitting at their computer. They're out and about, they're doing sales activities. And it is, in my opinion, that if they could talk to somebody verbally off their phone, in their car, in traffic, and like they were talking to their own assistant, we could come leap years and years ahead in the process of selling real estate. And I may be overzealous on this, but I truly do believe that's the way the future is going to be in a lot of businesses. And I think it'll allow people to do more with less. I mean, they're just going to be able to be able to do a lot more. So I'm super excited about our Grit Media and our next. I also interviewed Fund and Grow. And Fund and Grow, Amanda Webster, she is the Chief Operating Officer. She's going to talk about if you're in business, how you need to separate your personal credit cards and your personal like accounts from your business and how she can fund you up to $250,000 of money, cash flow opportunities, sometimes at 0% interest. And she can show you how to strategize with your business, whether it's real estate or any business, and how to set it up so that you're not relying on your personal assets and your personal line of credit and your personal credit for your business. So that's a great interview that we did. And that'll be coming out shortly here. I already did the interview. And then we have coming up too is Shannon from Open House Masters and Open House Direct. I think it's Open House Direct, but it's an app. It's a new app out of Arizona. And I can really relate to her story because she went through the whole COVID thing like I did, launching our app and the struggles we have in real estate in trying to get adoption for an application. And I think her coaching program is really great to teach people open houses and how they can utilize her app to actually keep track of people who's going in the home. Sellers, this is really important to you because you want to know who's in your house. And so many people, they have a notebook and they want people to fill it out. People don't even put in the true information. She has an app that actually verifies the person's phone number. So when you have people coming into a home and you're doing an open house as a realtor, it also protects you, protects the seller. And under the new rules, because of this lawsuit, it also is a way to find out if somebody has a buyer agreement. And this is the only way that people can see a home without a buyer agreement. And it's a way for you to connect that to your CRM, which hopefully you'll be using our CRM because it's really brilliant. And you will have those leads go in there and you can create an AI funnel and you can keep track of them all and stay in touch and be relevant to those potential buyers. So Shannon's app is really great. And we did an interview for that. And I'm thinking, who else? Okay. And Leslie Ruta Smith. So she talks about how great NAR is. She talks a little bit about how it's not so great for some things, but we talk about the women's journey. Okay. And I used to be the membership director for a women's council of realtors in Monterey County for 1 year. And my personal experiences, I don't want to get negative, but I didn't think it was that great. But a lot of women around the country love Women's Council of Realtors, and they connect and they do all these events. But what was interesting in that interview is we talked about how NAR has an army of, and the local associations have an army of people who work for free, except the people that are at the national level, which is what I found out. So when I was talking with Leslie in the interview, she said, we get a stipend. Well, go look in my book because those stipends are pretty high. And the CEO of NAR makes $2.6 million. So what are we saying here, right? This is a nonprofit organization with an army of real estate agents, many of them women, but a lot of men too, are working for free while they're building their billion-dollar coffer. And I don't know if they really are truly helping the agent and this consumer. So it'll be interesting to see how all this works out and what comes unfolded under the Department of Justice in the next year or two. I do believe that we need automation. We need some changes in the industry. I do believe that people who utilize their education services, like Leslie will point out, she talks about the history and how far women have come in this journey, and it's still controlled by men, though. The majority of the positions, except now we have a new CEO that is a woman with NAR. But predominantly has been a man's industry, and women are starting to make headway. And it's probably only been since probably the last 30 years that women have really made a headway in this. And so I want everyone to know that Leslie's interview is really awesome. She's an incredible woman. I don't necessarily agree with her about somewhat drinking the Kool-Aid with the association, but I do believe there's good things about the association, but I believe that they are too much power right now. And you'll see that in my book. So I hope you'll come back and join us for the next session, which I'm going to be releasing here right after this one. And you can see all the guest speakers I have on here, and we're going to be covering lots of different topics in Grit Media. And everything is about growth, being real, some real estate in there, and innovation and tenacity, because you got to have grit in business. Sometimes you have to have a grit in life. And I thank you for listening today, and have a good one.